Welcome, bent riders around the world. My name is Gary Solomon, and you're watching the Laidback Bike Report. And I'm coming to you live from the Laidback Bike Studios in Columbus, Ohio, where we broadcast monthly, usually on the first Sunday of the month. This webcast, as well as all our past shows, are archived on YouTube. You can always find more information and previous shows, as well as the upcoming webcasts, at our laidbackbikereport.com website. And you can now watch the Laidback Bike Report on many different venues: Google+, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and also on that website. If you'd like to make a comment today or ask a question during the show, the easiest way to do that is to click on through to YouTube and make a comment right underneath the live video where it says share your thoughts, which is what we'd like you to do. We can also see your comments from the Google+ event page, also Twitter if you use the hashtag Laidback Bike Report. So if you would, please make this webcast interactive by asking your questions, making comments, and we can bring them live onto the show. This webcast is going to be broken down into 5 sections. We have a presentation and interview of a special guest. We'll, if we have time, have a panel discussion on various recumbent topics. The Recumbent News of the Month will be coming to you live from the Laidback News Desk. We'll hopefully have a little time for open questions and answers from the audience, and then a little bit of Google+ Recumbent Bike Rider community news and business. I'd like to introduce our panelists today on the show. First, we have Travis Prebble. Travis is the founder and editor of Recumbent Journal and Recumbent TV. He works part-time for RBR, a recumbent bike shop in State College, Pennsylvania, and he's also the esteemed anchor of our Laidback News Desk. Welcome, Travis.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you. Good to be here.
Next, we have Lars Kamm. Lars comes to us from Salzgitter, Germany. He rides an HP Velotechnik Street Machine GTE, and more importantly now, a Strada Velomobile named Intrepid. Lars blogs at www.streetmachinist.de, and he helps produce and direct this webcast. Welcome, Lars.
Happy to be here.
And we also have our newest panelist, Denny Voorhees. He's been a recumbent rider for more than 10 years, a frequent contributor on many of the online bent forums. He has 2 Bechettas, a Tour Easy, and a Catrike. Denny does ultra racing mostly on upright bikes right now, and he's also a member of the Team Novo Nordisk Type 2 racing team. Welcome, Denny.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to be back here this month.
It's great to have you back. All right, let's move along and get right into the show. I want to introduce our guest for the month. Our guest is the owner of Coyne Publishing in San Dimas, California. He publishes the venerable Recumbent and Tandem Rider magazine 4 times a year. He's also the owner and producer of Recumbent Cycle-Con, the annual exposition of all things recumbent, billed as the largest recumbent cycling event in the world. And this year, Recumbent Cycle-Con is going to be in Cincinnati, Ohio, on September 27th and 28th. I'd like to welcome our guest this month, Charles Coyne. Welcome, Charles.
Good morning, Gary, and thank you for having me on the show today. Appreciate it.
It's great to have you on. And Charles said good morning because he is actually in California, although many of the rest of us are in the Eastern time zone or all kinds of other time zones. So, Charles, let's get to some questions that I'm sure everybody wants to know about. I'd like to know, first of all, a little bit about your background. Where are you from?
Well, originally from Iowa, my family moved to California when I was 12 years old, and so mostly grew up here in Southern California. Went to college and high school in local nearby community colleges and California State University, Fullerton. And when I was at Cal State Fullerton, one of the requirements for graduating seniors was an internship. And so I had an internship, one of the two paid internships of all the communications majors that year, and that was writing for a little newsletter called Bicycle Motocross News. That was in 1976, which was just the beginning throes of what became as everyone knows how big BMX racing became, and so that was my introduction to professional bicycle racers, professional bicycle teams, and the possibility of making a living writing words and taking pictures. And so the pay rate was 5 cents per word at that time for that internship. And I learned very quickly that it wasn't just a red bike, it was a very bright red shiny bike that glowed in the night, and on and on and on. So I became very adept at turning a three-word sentence into a 20-word sentence at a nickel a word.
So adjectives basically were your trade at that point, right?
Adjectives meant cash, you bet.
So
after I graduated, I went to work for a number of different automotive enthusiast publications, street rod type magazines, off-road truck type magazines, and that sort of thing. And I spent most of my publishing career in the consumer enthusiast interest genre. My wife and I got a tandem, 20 some years ago or more, so we enjoyed writing that a little bit, and then suddenly she got pregnant and couldn't write it anymore, so it sat for a while. Then when our daughter got old enough, got the child stoker kits for her so she could ride on it, and then since then we've had triplet that we've all rode and taken trips on, and then I started Recumbents, writing Recumbents in about 2001 when I started the magazine.
So I was wondering, so that's your professional lineage here. So you started doing the newsletter, and then was the first real professional magazine that you had, was it the RTR magazine?
I had started a couple of other magazines, folded one up, it was not profitable, sold another one to a large publishing company, and then went to work for that large publishing company on another similar aviation magazine, so those are the two publications, periodical publications that I started. And
yeah,
so
interestingly, I saw that, I don't know if you still are, but at one point you were the editor of Skyline magazine, a glider pilot magazine?
Well, that was Soaring magazine. It's the monthly publication of the Soaring Society of America. And yeah, I did that, help them out for, it's a volunteer association, and they don't have a lot of money, so they were looking for a paid volunteer to do their magazine for a while. So I helped them out for a while, but set that aside earlier this year so that we'd have more time to concentrate on the magazine and on the Recumbent Cycle Convention.
All right, which we'll get into a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So let's see, you mentioned that you had a tandem that you rode with your wife for a while, and then you started getting interested in recumbents and started the magazine. So on a personal level, have you ridden recumbents? Do you have recumbents? What's your recumbent?
Ridden just about all recumbent. I can't think of any manufacturers recumbents who I've not ridden by this time. Probably haven't ridden every model of every manufacturer, but I always put time on every bike that we get in for a review. Just even though I may have someone else do the actual review, I always make sure I get some seat time on it, just because number one, it's a lot of fun to ride all the new recumbents, but also it's just makes good sense that if you're publishing a recumbent magazine, you should ride as many recumbents as possible. The kind of exception to that, though, is at the Recumbent Cycle conventions. As you know, we have the outdoor demo riding arena, and it breaks my heart a little bit to see everyone else all day riding and riding and riding out on the track while I have to stay with the show and take care of business. But
Right.
that's the price of
That's the
being
price
the
of
guy in
working.
charge, I guess.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the price of working the show instead of being at the show, I
You
suppose.
bet.
All right, so let's get back, if we can, to the Recumbent Tandem Rider magazine. So I know at the beginning, I remember seeing that magazine in a lot of bike shops. Can you talk to us a little bit about the genesis of the magazine and its early beginnings?
The genesis was actually another guy's idea who had tried and really never got off the ground insofar as actually printing and publishing a magazine. And I was working with him trying to develop ad sales and that sort of thing. He kind of fizzled out, and I could tell by the response that I was getting from potential advertisers that there was and is a need for such a magazine, and so I went ahead and started Recumbent and Tandem Rider magazine.
Okay.
That's kind of the thumbnail pick story.
Right, right. So I know at one point the other major magazine that everyone seemed to know about was the Recumbent Cyclist News magazine, Bob Bryant's magazine.
Right, right.
And I know at some point when he stopped publishing, you took over some of the subscription aspects of his maybe his subscription list or whatever. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. When Bob was printing his very good publication well before we started doing Recumbent and Tandem Rider magazine. I'm not sure what the reasons were for his deciding to retire from that, but he had, as any publication does, if you're a periodical publication, you have a set of subscribers who have paid for subscriptions, and rather than leave his paid subscribers out cold, I just offered to fulfill whatever subscription quantities that his subscription list had left with an equal number of Recumbent and Tandem Rider magazine subscribers or subscript issues, and that's worked out pretty well. We still have quite a few subscribers who we gave those first free subscriptions to subscribing to the magazine.
Yeah, I think that was a great gesture. So, and glad to see that it worked out well for you. I guess my next question has to do with why recumbent and tandems. I specifically am very interested in that because I have a recumbent tandem, so I'm a perfect fit for what you're looking for, I expect. But how did the nexus of those two types of bikes end up being the idea of your magazine?
Well, if you look at print publishing back in the days leading up to the early 2000s, I think most of our viewers are probably old enough to remember pre-internet days, and so the ability to address very small niche audiences was not being well addressed by the publishing industry. The problem with at that point of doing just a recumbent magazine or just a tandem magazine is there was not really a large enough mass to make it viable, and so that's kind of why two types of bicycle types in one publication. Since then, it's been a little bit easier to address niche markets like that, but we've got a good following of recumbent subscribers. We have a good following of tandem subscribers, and so we'll certainly continue to be RTR magazine well into the future. One thing we have started doing this year is the magazine is available online as a digital edition as well as our traditional print edition.
Right, and that actually was going to be my next question. So, can you talk to us a little bit about what was involved with making that decision and putting together your online magazine as opposed to publishing a print magazine?
Well, The printer that we use has had for quite some time the ability to provide the magazine in digital format. But I'm kind of an old school guy, and I like, paper magazines and such that I can hold in my hands. So I kind of drug my feet on making that change. So when we did the actual transition to supplying a digital edition was pretty easy to make. And then I also viewed, the things that were online, such as BentWriter Online. Brian does a really great job with BentWriter Online, and so I saw no real need to develop an online presence for the magazine, because there's no sense of having redundant media like that. So with BentWriter Online doing so well, I just kind of didn't ignore online, but determined that the only real online need that we had with the magazine would be to make it available online as a digital edition. And interestingly, since we've launched it, we still get about twice as many paper subscription requests as we do digital edition requests. So that may be part of the age of our demographics, in that a lot of people are my age and older like to hold something in their hand, because then it's real.
Yeah. I was just going to say that's exactly why that is, I'm sure. Although you'd want to have younger viewers coming online too, to kind of see what you have. So that presence will help that out, I'm expecting. So my next question has to do with the writers for your articles. How do you find your writers, and have you had some of the same writers for a long time?
We've had some writers for a long time. Some come and go. Some are one shot. Some of them, come up with a nice travel thing every couple 3 years. There's quite a variety, and for the most part, they find the magazine and offer to do some writing. Initially, I had some local friends who helped out a lot with reviews and that sort of thing, but now we've got a team in Great Britain now that's starting to review some tandems over there, and we have most of our reviewers are actually based in Southern California. As far as the recumbents are concerned, reason for that is it's easiest to get the bikes shipped here to my facility, get them assembled, do the photography, and then get the action photography. Southern California has plenty of great scenery to take pictures in, so most of our recumbent reviewers are here in Southern California. But we're always looking for good new talent. If you know of anyone that would like to be considered, they could sure get a hold of me.
All right, we'll put the word out there for you. That should be helpful. All right, let's kind of wrap up the magazine part of this. So what about future plans for the magazine? You said you have no intention of changing the basic idea of tandems and recumbents. Is there anything on the horizon, any changes, any idea about expanding it? You talked about going to England. Is there anything about, any ideas about expanding it further than that?
Well, all along we've had foreign subscribers, not a lot, but several hundred foreign subscribers, and that's another one of the beauties of the digital edition is foreign subscribers can get their magazines right away instead of waiting for the mail and that sort of thing. So we already have an overseas, pretty strong overseas presence. The couple that are going to be reviewing tandems in Great Britain will be reviewing tandems that for the most part are only available in Great Britain or in Europe, and that's addressing our increasing overseas subscribers for the digital edition. But other than that, there's no real great revisions planned. The format works pretty well. Some issues are a little heavier on recumbents. Some issues are a little heavier on tandems. But through an average, I think we're keeping everybody pretty well pleased with what our editorial mix is.
Excellent. Well, I have to say that as one of your avid readers and now online reader, I like what you've done with the online product. I think it's easy to use and it looks really beautiful. So I think you're doing a great job there on that. So,
well, thanks. One of the concerns about an online issue that I had all along was if someone gets the magazine, everyone's getting exactly the same product, and it's kind of a shared experience. When you do a digital edition, you never know if someone's looking at it, on a screen this big, or this big. So there's some variations, but so far I've not had any complaints about technical difficulties with the online edition or readability or viewability. So I'm glad it seems to be working real well.
Yeah, the zooming function I think works great. So that's awesome. So, all right, let's zoom on to the next subject. Let's talk a little bit about Recumbent Cycle-Con. So, if you would, Charles, tell us about why you came up with the idea of Cycle-Con. Where did that come from?
The genesis for Recumbent Cycle-Con actually came from for years and years there were a group of recumbent industry folks who would get together on the first night of the Interbike Expo up in Las Vegas, and there would be a dinner and presentations and that sort of thing. And the discussion was always, gee, Interbike is so expensive. Gee, Interbike doesn't bring a lot of the recumbent dealers in, and that sort of thing. And they kept saying what the world really needs is a recumbent trade show. And folks said that for several years. And then I said, well, okay, I will produce a recumbent trade show. You guys better sign up and come. And they have, and they did. And so I can't say the rest is history, but it's been fairly well received in the industry, I think. We sure get a lot of dealers there and enthusiasts who appreciate the opportunity to see all the newest recumbents from all the manufacturers in the world and to get to ride all the new models and features from all the recumbent manufacturers in the world. So that's kind of the short story of how the show came to be.
All right.
The first one was
I was just going to ask you, could you give us a little history of the actual show? So when was the first one? Where was the first one? And bring us up to date.
Right. Well, the first show was in 2011, and it was very close to my home here in San Dimas, next door at the fairgrounds at the Pomona Fairplex. That was very handy for me. I had, like most people in most industries, have attended many different trade shows and that sort of thing. But I also had worked for a large automotive association that produced one of the largest trade shows in the world. And so I had a little bit of trade show experience, but just enough to make me think I could do it, but not enough to do it real well. So the first shows here in California were very handy for me and for our team to develop the show and invent the wheel such as it was and get kind of our systems and processes in order. But with a show such as this, you really need a much larger audience and a more centralized location than Los Angeles. If you draw a 500-mile circle around Los Angeles, you circle a whole lot of ocean and you circle a whole lot of desert. There's a lot of people in Los Angeles, but once you go beyond the city limits, however long it may take to get there, there's still a lot of empty space out there. So we thought, well, we would move it to Chicago, further east. I have relatives nearby, so the logistics would be a little easier, that sort of thing. And so we did that in 2013, went to Chicago to the DuPage Expo Center. I'm sorry, 2014. Last year we went there. And that worked very well. We had a very nice facility, had a pretty nice outdoor demo riding arena. The problem was, about 2 months before the show last year, we were notified that the venue that we were in was being put for sale, and they were not taking reservations for 2015 or beyond. Well, that put us in a little bit of a bind. So we had to scramble pretty quickly to find a new venue for 2015 and beyond. I had, again, from previous show experience, I know that Ohio is considered the ideal location. Almost anywhere in Ohio is, as far as your population center is. So if you draw that 500-mile circle around Chicago, you go way over towards New York and back towards Chicago, and so you encircle a whole lot of large and very large Midwest and Eastern cities. So you have anywhere in Chicago the most densely populated 500-mile circle that you can make in the continental United States. So that's why Ohio. And then since Cincinnati in particular, we contacted the Cincinnati State Tourism Board, Convention Tourism Board, and worked with them, and then we got in touch from them with Cincinnati, and Cincinnati came up with an extraordinary venue at the Sharonville Convention Center in Cincinnati. If anyone has exhibited with the show or been with the show from the beginnings at the fairgrounds to the DuPage Expo Center, the Sharonville Expo Center is a Cadillac of a convention center, and it's just beautiful, and it's going to be very nicely welcomed by our attendees, I think.
So that's a nice upgrade for you all the way around. And on a personal note, I'm glad you went to Cincinnati too, because it's only about an hour and a half from me. So we'll be excited to get down there and have a look.
We had you in mind when we moved.
Yeah, you were thinking about me the whole time, I'm sure. Thanks. All right, I want to know what it's like for you. You kind of touched on this briefly about wanting to be part of what's going on in the show, but you're working the show, you're running things, and I know that's a little frustrating. Can you tell us a little bit what it's like personally, Charles, to put on one of these shows?
Well, starting about now, we're within 2 months, and so now is when you really start sweating the bullets over every little detail. You work year long to produce a show like this because there's a million details, but now is when you really have to start going over things with a fine-tooth comb and make sure all your ducks are in order. Once the show starts, in many ways that's almost the easiest time. Believe it or not, because it's too late to worry about anything. It's just everything's happening, and with a good plan in place and a good crew, it actually goes pretty smoothly. We haven't had any real major problems at any of the shows so far. So with good planning and good people to work the plan, a good team in place, it actually works pretty smoothly. But you do have to have someone keeping an eye on things, and that's what I have to do. But I always try and get a ride in. We close the show at 4 o'clock on Sunday, and so I always try and sneak a ride or two in after the show. But I get plenty of riding in during the year, so don't feel too sorry for me that I don't get to ride at the show. We have Brian Zupke, he's one of our key recumbent reviewers, and he's always there. And he's the one that gets to ride all the bikes and make his notes, and he does the coverage on the story. So,
right, and I'm guessing living in California, it gives you a few more extra weeks of riding than we might have here in Ohio during the winter season. So.
Well, yeah, and I'll tell you, with the drought conditions that we've had the last 4 or 5 years, unfortunately, here in California, we've probably had more rideable days than we really want. So hopefully we have an El Nino coming this year, and we'll get a little break from this drought.
For you. Let's talk a little bit about the logistics you touched on a little bit. So how many people does it take to put on a show like this? Like, give me an idea of the staff that you have, and how many vendors do you expect, and how many people do you think might be showing up for the
Well, right now we're at about 63 booth spaces. I think that translates to about 45 vendors or thereabouts. We have staff you know, there's probably going to be about 10 of us in Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, we have a much larger and a much nicer outdoor demo riding arena. It's got a little bit of an uphill stretch and then a turn in the parking lot, and then you come back down through S-turns. And so we'll probably have to staff up a little bit out there for security and that sort of thing. So at this point, we're looking at about 10 staff people on hand at any one time during the show, between the ticket sales and you know, someone wandering to make sure everything's going well with our exhibitors, security, and that sort of thing. Keeping our seminar people on track. Some of our seminar presenters like to go a little bit long, so someone needs to go in there and gently remind them that they had 45 minutes for their seminar and it's time for the next one, that sort of thing. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, so you have a guy with a hook, basically, to pull those people off the stage.
Well,
I was looking for that position, you know, but I might be busy during the show. But if that comes up, I'll bring my little Bo Peep hook with me in case you need me.
One of the difficult things, not difficult, but it's amusing every year is the show closes every day. You know, 5 o'clock on Friday, 5 o'clock on Saturday, and 4 o'clock on Sunday. On Friday and Saturday, and I should mention that Friday is our industry-only day, and that's when all the dealers and industry members come in to conduct business. So please no consumers on Friday. But any of the first 2 days, it's always kind of funny because you really have to grind on people to get them out of the hall when we close, because they're so excited and have so much going on. They're reluctant to leave the show, but that's a good thing.
Have you had any crazy stories from your past cycle-cons that you'd like to talk to us about? Things that just tickle you from when you think back about them?
Well, no, nothing really crazy. I guess the one thing that caught my eye the most at one of the shows was there was a company coming down from Canada who delayed and delayed and delayed their decision to come to the show until the very last minute, which is not a problem from the show producer's end because you can always make room. But they air freighted a huge crate with about 3 or 4 recumbents in it, and I was just stunned that someone would that kind of money to come to a show when if they would have shipped you know, a couple weeks earlier, it would have saved them a lot of money. So that you know, it's not very amusing, but that's the best story I have, I guess.
That's good enough for that one, Charles. So you talked about shipping from Canada, the vendor from Canada. So what kind of balance do you have from domestic and overseas vendors? Do we have a lot of people coming from overseas this year?
Well, yeah, we have Haze from Germany, HP Velotechnik from Germany, ICE from Great Britain, Azub from Czech Republic, Greenspeed from Australia. I believe TW Events will be coming from Taiwan, and at this point, that's all that I have confirmed. There could be, you know, a couple, 3 more. It's always interesting how, like I just alluded to, how many people decide to come at the very last minute. So could be more, but then domestically, just about all the manufacturers, again, will be represented. The new owner of Rands has a booth. Real excited that he's jumping right in there. Lightning Cycle Dynamics, they've been at every show so far, so they will be there. TerraTrike, of course, and who am I leaving out?
How about, do you say Easy Racers? Are they going to be there?
Haven't heard yet back from Easy Racers. He was at the first shows, but unfortunately, Catrike will not be there this year. One of the challenges we had this year with our venue is when we went looking for dates for the Sharonville Convention Center. The date that we're on, September 25, 26, 27, were the only dates they had available. And unfortunately, that falls the week right after Interbike. And so some companies, such as Catrike, is doing Interbike, and just the logistics of getting from Interbike to the show with a booth and everything, much less people and personnel to man booths at two back-to-back shows like that was kind of tough. So next year we have a bigger gap between Interbike. For 016, we'll be at the Sharonville Convention Center again, and we'll be there October 9, 10, 11 in 2016. So we'll have a bigger gap, about a 3-week gap between Interbike and the Recumbent Cycle Convention.
All right, that was going to be one of my last questions, was when the next one was. You just answered that. So
those are the dates. Yeah, and then should mention real quickly, if I may,
sure.
This year we're still including the adaptive cycling fair portion of the show. We have some folks coming from the local VA hospital there in Cincinnati to take a look at all the different offerings that the recumbent, especially the recumbent trike folks have for adaptive and special needs cyclists. And then also we're adding another component this year to the show, and that's the Bicycle Tour and Travel Expo. And so that will be pretty clear, obviously what it covers with that. Similar format to the Recumbent Cycle Convention, Fridays for industry and trade only, Saturday and Sunday industry and trade, as well as consumers. And looking forward to seeing that group of people. If you think about it, there's a lot of crossover in the hardware between recumbent bikes and touring bikes, whether it's brakes, gear train, drivetrain, wheels, tires, chain, all manner of things, accessories. So there's kind of as an exhibitor's point of view, kind of two shows for the price of one, because you're reaching the audience, recumbent audience, as well as the touring and travel audience. So that's the big news for the show this year.
Wow, that sounds like a nice addition.
Thanks.
Can we? You talked a little bit earlier, alluded to the industry dinner on Friday, and we will of course respect that idea of industry only. But I was wondering if you can give us a little insight into what goes on Friday night at those industry dinners.
Well, usually we have about 85 members of the recumbent industry, and any member of the industry is welcome. The tickets will go on sale this week through Eventbrite. We have usually a guest speaker. We've had some really good guest speakers. We've had Maria Parker talking about her extraordinary ride across America. Hans Agala from Azub last year had a great story about some of the wild tours that he has done on recumbents in Europe and Asia. Boy, that guy and his group of riders are just monsters, some of the places that they've been to. So this year we will be having Janet Buckwalter. She rode her recumbent trike cross-country and wrote a real nice, interesting book about it. So she will be our featured speaker this year. Each year we name the Recumbent Dealer of the Year at the show, and that's voted on by all the manufacturers that are exhibiting, put forward their nominations of the Recumbent Dealer of the Year. We tally those, and the dealer that gets the most votes, of course, wins that. Last year we instituted the Recumbent Person of the Year, and this year we'll have another Person of the Year. I think that's about that for the dinner. The show on Friday closes at 5, and then the doors for the pre-dinner mixer opens at 6, and then dinner will be at 7.
Okay, that sounds it. That gives us a little bit of an idea than what those people might expect in the industry. So you also touched earlier about briefly on the seminars that open for the public seminars. Can you tell us a little bit about what to expect there? Who will we see?
Well, we have. I should have printed that out so I could rattle those off. But before I forget, though, if I may, I want to come back to one thing about the dinner.
Yeah.
We're also having a charity raffle, or not a charity raffle, a charity auction at the dinner. We will be raffling or auctioning off a booth for next year's show to the highest bidder, and then all these proceeds will be going to a charity that produces and provides adaptive cycles for folks that have a need. So we'll also be raffling off, or having a silent auction rather, during the show that everyone can enter to win a free trip with one of the bicycle tour companies that is exhibiting at the show.
Okay, that sounds good. So, for someone coming to the show as an attendee, they will be expecting to be able to have some test rides on that track you talked about, and seeing the seminars, meeting up with industry leaders, kinds of thing. What else would you might expect as an attendee coming to the show?
Well, I think the primary thing what people want to do is see all the new bikes and the upgrades to existing models. That's probably highest on all the attendees' views. I think people want to see accessories that are going to be new and exciting at the show. I think people really want to get out there and ride the bikes. That's really been proven so far in the past. And the seminars, the list of the seminars, and I should mention, is on the website, recumbentcycle-con.com. So you could easily go there. And we're adding seminars to the list at all times. So right up until the show starts, we will be adding seminars. So it's a good idea to go to the website, recumbentcycle-con.com, to see what the latest offerings are for seminars.
Okay, so the show for the public is 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. I was wondering if you thought, is it a 2-day show for the attendees? Do you think it takes 2 days to see the show, or do you think 1 day might cover it for them?
Well, historically, most people really only do it on one day, but there are quite a few people, I would say maybe 10, 15%, 20% or so, attend both Saturday and Sunday. And there are a lot of dealers that will be there all 3 days also, because they want to spend quality time with the other members of the industry on Friday, and then they want to do some careful riding and evaluation of the bikes on Sunday and Saturday.
Very good. Okay, was there anything else you wanted to add, Charles, before we finish up the?
Well, I'll just reiterate that the hours on Saturday for the show are 9 to 5 for consumers, and then 10 to 4 on Sunday. Bring a helmet. Helmets will be required for anyone that's going to ride. The admission's $20 a day, and after that, fill out your waiver, get your hand stamped, and you'll be good to go.
And the dates again?
September 26, September 27 at the Sharonville Convention Center, Cincinnati, Ohio. And for those folks who are going to fly in, there's a shuttle from the airport to the convention center, and there's a large number of hotels and motels within walking distance of the convention center. So you could go there without having to bother with a rental car. There's plenty of places to eat within walking distance. So it's a very excellent location for the show.
Very nice. And I want to announce right now that the Laidback Bike Report will be attending the Cycle-Con in Cincinnati, and we'll be doing some video. We're going to probably try to do some live coverage as well. This is an experiment, so we'll see how that all works out, but we'll be bringing you some video and probably some bonus Laidback Bike Reports between the monthly ones, see if we can bring you some coverage of the show. So we're very excited to be attending, and that's about it for the interview. So Charles, wanted to thank you very, very much for coming on the Laidback Bike Report, telling us all about what it is you do with the magazine and the Cycle-Con, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in person and seeing you in what, about 6 or 8 weeks, huh?
It'll be here before we're ready. And Gary, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to address your audience, and appreciate your support for the show and the magazine.
Very good. It's a pleasure. Before I let you go, I'm not sure if we have any questions from the panelists. Any of you guys interested in a question for Charles? A lot of shaking heads, so I guess not. I must have covered everything perfectly. So thanks again,
Charles. You did a good job interviewing.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Gary.
Very good. So at this point in the show is when we usually throw it to the Laidback News Desk with Travis. So Travis, take it away.
I figured since we're going to have this, whole new opening sequence thing, I should throw in one of my own. So apologies for, as Gary said in sort of our prep meeting, the smug look on my face. I was going for as much news anchor as I could without getting into Anchorman territory. So let's go ahead and get started with this month's Laidback News Desk. First up, Catrike has partnered with a new PR agency. After performing a nationwide search, they selected the public relations firm of Anson Stoner to help them grow their market share. Oddly enough, Anson Stoner is located in Winter Park, Florida, the former home of Catrike. So they probably didn't have to go as nationwide as they did. Anson Stoner will handle Catrike's media relations and social media and brand strategies. So I would say look for more news coming out of Catrike in the next year, like a lot more. Let's see. Next up, we have Bashetta. They have announced updates to their Carbon Arrow and introduced a new model, the Basso. Basically, what they've done is for the standard Carbon Arrow, they've taken the blue and changed it to orange with some minor component upgrades, like an upgrade to SRAM XO and FSA hollow carbon cranks. The Basso, which is pictured here, is essentially the Carbon Arrow with the smaller front wheel. They put that together for smaller riders who couldn't quite get up on, say, the dual 650s or dual 700s of a typical Carbon Arrow. These are available to order in September, and they both are priced at $4,200 USD. Easy Racers last month took on what seemed like a great new Facebook manager. There have been a ton of updates on their page, basically like new custom builds, digging into the archives, lots of great old photos of Fast Freddie Markham, Gardner Martin. And everything was going swimmingly until July 30th when the new Facebook manager announced his resignation from the company. Obviously, those are personnel matters. We don't know what the real story is behind that, but I will say to Easy Racers, this last month has been fantastic on your Facebook page. Please, whoever takes it up next, just let them go at it. All the updates were fantastic, and you're really starting to win back some good vibes from your fan base. So keep it up once you get that guy replaced. Now new on the scene, announced via an Indiegogo campaign and very, very quietly online, is what I'm assuming the pronunciation is Triki Bikes. This is a company out of Spain, and basically they are opening up with a new tandem trike that has some interesting features to it. I definitely would recommend going to trikibikes.com to check it out, and we'll have the link to that in the YouTube comments later on. Basically, they have a variant that allows you to put 2 child seats on the back rack so that you have a child. Basically, you have child seat panniers. So if you need to get 4 people around on a tandem trike, it's probably your only bet. But anyway, they do have an Indiegogo running right now. If you feel like getting in on the ground floor, they do have 10 slots open to purchase a Triki at a €2,600 price point. That's about $2,862 USD. And that gets you a Triki at a 15% discount. No word yet on when they will go into full production, so you want to follow that Indiegogo campaign. And again, we will link to that in the YouTube comments. Coming up next week, if you're interested in getting together with 200 of your closest friends who happen to be recumbent riders, you want to head out to Stevens Point, Wisconsin for the Midwest Recumbent Rally, or also known as the Hostel Shop Recumbent Rally. The other reason you might want to go out there is they are apparently giving away an Ice Adventure full suspension 26 to some lucky receiver. So definitely get out there. I've been out there myself. It's certainly a good time, and I believe that Gary is going out this year as well. So if you want to meet the organizer of the Laidback Bike Report, There you go.
There we go. This is from 10 years ago, and we're going back. So, yeah, we're definitely going to be there.
So there you go. Go out, meet Gary, have fun, have some ice cream. It's always a great ice cream social in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And let's see, last in our news. Sorry, wrong button. Slyway. Slyway on Facebook. You obviously can see I get a lot of my news off of Facebook. Has shown a prototype of a new carbon monocoque trike. They do have a very basic spec list up, but really the only thing you care about is how much it weighs. So let's just get right to that. They are saying that this prototype weighs in at 22 pounds complete. So compare that to, say, an ICE VTX, which weighs in at just under 33 pounds. Pricing has not yet been set for the Slyway, but expect to pay quite a bit for a trike that light. And that wraps up this month's Laidback News Desk.
Very good. Thank you, Travis. Another interesting report. Lots of interesting news going on there. All right, let's move along to the news from the Google Plus community. Every month we pick a winner in 3 different categories. I've had polls going in the past, but those didn't work out that well. So I'm just picking them myself using the comments and the +1s on the site. Seems to be a good way to do it. So the winners this month, first of all, the picture of the month, John Rossignol. Picture of the month is called Riding on a Country Road. The video of the month is a name, the winner is a name that you'll be familiar with. It's Lars Kamm. Congratulations, Lars. It's a fun ride with the guys of the recumbent group Hildesheim. I hope I said that correctly. It was a great video. And the discussion of the month was Peter Kuiper. He was the winner. The discussion was Ellen Van Fucht, the fastest cyclist in the world, the lady who took her velomobile, and I think it was a relatively short course, but she bested anyone else's record for that, and I think man or woman. So interesting discussion on that one. So we have 633, I think, members of the community now. So we appreciate all you for joining, all you that have joined the community, and the community locator map. If you will, if you'll put your pin in there, just fill out the form. I'll make sure that everyone can see where you're riding around the world, and people can join up with you, maybe ride and see where all the members are. So. Let's move along to some Laidback Bike Report business for the closing. Next month, we're going to jump to the second Sunday of the month. Again, we're going to avoid the Labor Day holiday, so it'll be September 13th. On the report, we will be welcoming Julia Keating, who is putting on the Chicagoland Unconventional Bicycle Expo. Travis has reported on this a couple of times, and it will be going on in October, so we'll talk to her about what that show is about. And as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to keep you up to date on our coverage of Cycle-Con. We will be there. We will have some unscheduled bonus webcasts, and we'll try to keep you up to date on our website, laidbackbikereport.com. So keep your eyes open on there, and we'll keep you up to date when our webcasts will be popping up. If you want to see some quick and hopefully fairly in-depth coverage of Cycle-Con next month. As always, if you would like to appear as a panelist, guest, or know someone who is interested in doing so, please let us know here at Laidback Bike Report. And I wanted to thank all of our panelists today for helping me out, as always. The report could not be put together and could not appear so professional without the wonderful help of my panelists. So Travis and Lars and Denny, thank you very, very much, as always. And thank you, Charles, of course, lastly, for being a guest on the show. We are interested in seeing his Cycle-Con show in September and bringing you those reports. So thank you all for watching again. This is the Laidback Bike Report. Good day.